in your debate here, you used the line Senator Biden used about Senator Obama back when they were debating, and that is the presidency does not lend itself to on-the-job training. And that raises the question, I mean, because it seems to me a narrative has emerged. You know, the same lines that were used in the first debate by Senator Obama were used by Joe Biden in the second debate, were used by Senator Obama in the third debate. Do you really believe that Senator Obama is prepared to be President of the United States? Does he have the experience?
I don't, but I'll let the American people make a judgment in just 28 days. But I think he lacks the experience and the knowledge, and most importantly, the judgment that he has displayed. The judgment that he displayed over his comments when Russia committed aggression against Georgia, and his failure, as I mentioned last night, to acknowledge that he was wrong about the surge. He is, in my view, does not have the judgment necessary to lead this country in very difficult times, and his record is replete with those misjudgments, whether it be his comments about that in Afghanistan all Americans are doing is bombing villages and killing innocent civilians.
The exact quote is air raiding villages and killing civilians.
I mean, that's so insulting to the men and women who are serving in the military. I think that he should at least retract that statement. But I think the important thing is his worldview, his willingness to sit down with Ahmadinejad without precondition, or Hugo Chavez, or the Castro brothers, without precondition, giving them legitimacy, affirming their behavior and attitude towards their own people as well as towards us. It shows a lack of knowledge and experience, and therefore judgment.
Governor Palin, you had echoed those comments in recent days. This was immediately after the debate, and you actually, is the phrase that Senator McCain just mentioned, air raiding villages and killing civilians, you said that that should disqualify him, meaning Barack Obama, from being commander-in-chief.
Because there is such a gross misunderstanding of what our U.S. troops are doing in Afghanistan. What they're doing, of course, is fighting terrorism and protecting us, protecting our country. And, you know, they're building schools for the children in Afghanistan so that there's hope and opportunity there. So that just that gross misunderstanding of what the United States military's mission is right now is very, very concerning.
Could I mention one other point in his record? Senator Obama said that he would never vote to cut off the funding for American troops in Iraq and Afghanistan. After promising that, he and a handful of others voted that way. Now, both he and Senator Biden said, well, it's the same vote that I cast. I cast a vote against withdrawal and surrender. And I had promised that I would do everything that I could to fight against any resolution that would entail withdrawal, set dates for withdrawal, and therefore defeat in Iraq. So they're vastly different votes. They're vastly different.
Well, and Senator Biden had actually criticized him and said if you vote to cut off the funding,
vote.
Well, he said lives would be lost.
Yeah, and he also said that Senator Obama took a, quote, political vote. I agree with Senator Biden.
Now, one of the things that keeps coming up is the economy. And maybe both of you can answer this question because it came up in your two debates and your one debate. 95% of the American people are not going to see their taxes go up. You spent a lot of time in your debate dealing with that. You spent a lot of time in your debate dealing with that. Is that honest? Is that truthful?
Well, first of all, it's not truthful in the respect that 50% or 40% of the American people, taxpayers, American citizens don't pay taxes, federal income taxes. So right there, that obviously is wrong, and maybe that means that he just wants to give them a check, but I don't know if you could interpret that as a, quote, tax cut. But more importantly, Senator Obama didn't tell, nor did he deny last night, that his plan raises taxes on small business income. Small business created 300,000 jobs last year. We lost this, so far this year, we've lost 700,000 in some jobs. Small business has created some 300,000 jobs. 84% of the employees and workers in America are employed by small business, and he wants to tax 50% of small business income. That kills jobs. That keeps people from hiring. So with Senator Obama's rhetoric, you always have to, one, look at the rhetoric, and two, look at the fine print.
Do you think that, and I'll ask you, Governor Palin, this, do you think, for example, both of you brought up the fact in two of the debates that he keeps saying, you made a point, well, wait a minute, you raised taxes 94 times, you'd only been in the Senate a short period of time, and you voted to raise taxes on people making $42,000 a year, and now you're saying that, no, that's not going to happen for 95% of the people. So is this just something, is this a misnomer? Is this, you know, campaign rhetoric? Is he being dishonest, just not truthful with the American people?
Voters have got to go to someone's record and see what they have proven already in terms of what they're capable of doing in the future. 94 times being on the wrong side of the American people in voting for higher taxes. And then he proposing to spend now nearly $1 trillion in new government growth. He doesn't explain how he's going to get the money to pay for that also. And then two, these 3 years in the Senate, the nearly $1 million a day in his own requested earmarks for government to spend. That's somebody's record. And it, you know, it shouldn't be controversial. It shouldn't hurt anybody's feelings or anything else. If these type of issues are brought up, it's somebody's record. Now, that's as opposed to John McCain's record and my record, where we have truly that track record that shows the reform, the desire to, and the success in putting government back on the side of the people, our small businesses, and our families.
All right.
One additional point.
Sure.
When he ran for the United States Senate, he said he supported a middle-income working families tax cut. He never introduced a single piece of legislation to implement that, and instead he voted 94 times to either increase people's taxes or against tax cuts, and voted for a resolution which called for taxing individuals who make as low as $42,000 a year. Again, look at the record.
Now, you brought up in your debate, Senator, that since the time he's been in the Senate, about, I think you said $1 million of pork a day, roughly. Joe Biden last year, well, I think it was $120 million in pork barrel that he brought back to the state of Delaware. Both of them are pretty much dismissed as saying that's not that much money. Is that?
The fascinating thing is when he says it's only, quote, $18 billion. Now, it's a lot more than that. But $18 billion in anybody but an inside the beltway pork barreler would think is a lot of money. And you know the other thing that they keep not talking about, Sean, is the corrupting influence. Now, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, we blew the whistle 2 years ago, a bunch of us. And Fannie and Freddie, with campaign contributions, with the same kind of system, were basically gaining and purchasing influence so that the Democrats were fighting back against any real regulation and bringing under control what a lot of us said was going to be a train wreck.